Welcome to our reading lesson. Remember, we always start with our learning target so that we know how to focus our learning and what direction we need to go in. So let's get started. I can explain how images support the words in a text to show and describe information. So there are a couple of new words in here that we have been looking at, okay? Remember, to explain means to make it clear. You are going to make it clear by giving details on how to do something. So we're going to make it clear and give details on how images can support words in a text. So let's look at those words, images and support. An image is a picture or illustration and the photographs in a text, okay? We can have images in fiction text and nonfiction text. We also have the word support, meaning to help explain or provide evidence for the main idea in a text. So if our images, we're making it clear on how the images, the pictures, the illustrations, the photographs can support and give details to the words, okay? Now, one type of image is a diagram. This is a type of text feature. A diagram is a simple drawing that is used to explain something. So it's a simple drawing that is used to explain something. Now, we know that describe means to tell more, and then we're talking about information. So we're looking at real, true facts. We're looking at nonfiction text this week, okay? All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to turn in our Ready Reading Journals to page number 298. 298, okay? We're going to be looking at an article titled The Inclined Plane. What do you notice about the title of The Inclined Plane, this text? It starts at a lower end and it goes higher, doesn't it? What do you notice underneath the words, the inclined plane? Yeah, you notice a triangle where it starts smaller and it gets larger, doesn't it? The author has included the title, the graphics in that title to help us to understand, and that'll make more sense as we read, okay? So, in this article, we are going to read about an inclined plane. The purpose of an inclined plane is like a ramp. It helps you to do things. You can probably look at this illustration and already tell what an inclined plane is helping this person do in this diagram here. What is this person doing? What is this inclined plane helping this person doing? It's helping them to push this chest of drawers up into the truck, isn't it? So an inclined plane is helping make things easier, okay? It's like a ramp. You probably already know some examples of some inclined planes or some ramps that you've seen that make things easier, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to first read through this article just to get information about the article on what the author says. Then we'll read through this text again to understand more about how the text and the image support each other or work together, okay? All right, so your job now is to read through this article, The Inclined Plane. Once you have read through it, then you may unpause the video to continue, okay? You may read this article by yourself, you may read it with someone, or you may read it to somebody or to maybe a stuffed animal or a pet, okay? All right, so go ahead and read through this article. When you're done, you may unpause the video to continue. All right, so welcome back. What problem did the people have long ago that they solved with the inclined plane? Yeah, they had a hard time moving heavy objects. It even tells us that in the first paragraph. Many years ago, people had a problem. How could they easily move heavy objects without lifting them? The answer to the problem was the inclined plane. So they had a hard time lifting heavy objects, so the inclined plane was there to solve their problem. All right? What is an inclined plane? We talked about this a little bit at the beginning, but now that you've read this article and you know more, what is an inclined plane? tells us here, that's using those context clues. Remember looking around the word? Okay? An inclined plane is, it's going to flat out give us the definition. A flat surface that creates a ramp. So an inclined plane is a flat surface that creates a ramp. How do inclined planes help people move heavy objects more easily? All right, it helps them to push things from a lower spot to a higher place. They can push them instead of lifting. Great job. All right, guys, so now what we're going to do is we're going to focus our attention to the question on page 299. Up in the top where it says explore with the green box, it says, how does the diagram of an inclined plane help you better understand the information in the article? So how does the diagram support the words, or how does the words support the diagram, and how do they work together? So as we're going back through, we're going to use our closed reader habit here to help us understand how the image and the words support each other. The closed reader habit says, underline the two sentences that tell you what an inclined plane is. Then circle in the diagram the inclined plane. Okay, so we're underlining sentences that tell us what an inclined plane is and circling the inclined plane in the diagram. All right, let's get started. Put your helper finger on the first word. Ready, begin. Many years ago, people had a problem. How could they easily move heavy objects without lifting them? The answer to the problem was the inclined plane. An inclined plane is a flat surface that creates a ramp. This ramp makes a smooth climb from a lower place to a higher place. Did that tell us what an inclined plane is? It did, didn't it? So let's underline those two sentences. An inclined plane is a flat surface that creates a ramp. This ramp makes a smooth climb from a lower place to a higher place. Okay? All right, so let's pick back up on paragraph number 2. Ready, read. An inclined plane is a flat surface that creates a ramp. This ramp makes a smooth climb from a lower place to a higher place. Inclined planes let people move heavy objects more easily. They can push the objects instead of lifting them. Today, we use inclined planes all the time. Wheelchair ramps are one example. Loading ramps for moving trucks are another. Boat ramps are another. So we know that an inclined plane is a flat surface that creates a ramp, and it's a smooth climb from a lower place to a higher place. Now we need to look in our diagram, and we need to circle the inclined plane. So I see the mover, the heavy object, the inclined plane, and the truck. So here is the inclined plane. Okay? So now we're going to work to answer that question. How does the diagram of the inclined plane help us to better understand the information from the article? Now that we see what an inclined plane is, we're going to go back in our text and we're going to look for details that tell us about the inclined plane. We're going to go ahead and scroll to the next page, page 299, and we're going to organize our ideas, okay? So our buddy reader says, as I reread the text, I will look at the diagram to help me understand. So we're going to organize what the text tells us about an inclined plane here and what the diagram shows us about the inclined plane here. Let's go back and reread. The text tells us about the inclined plane, and the diagram shows what an inclined plane is used for. I'm going to go back and I'm going to read about how the text tells me about the inclined plane. All right, paragraph number 1. Many years ago, people had a problem. How could they easily move heavy objects without lifting them? The answer to the problem was the inclined plane. An inclined plane is a flat surface that creates a ramp. This ramp makes a smooth climb from a lower place to a higher place. Oh, that tells me about the inclined plane. So the text tells me that an inclined plane is a flat surface that creates a ramp. So I'm going to write that in because I now know some details about the inclined plane. It's a flat surface that creates a ramp. Okay? It also tells me that a ramp makes a smooth climb from a lower place to a higher place. All right, let's look at this word or this phrase, smooth climb, really quickly. Let's look at this word smooth. Smooth means to have an even and flat surface or consistency. That means it's free of projections or lumps or indentions in it, okay? So it is smooth. It is having an even and flat surface. So when it is climbing, it's not like climbing stairs, is it? It's smooth and flat. The image can help me see that. Can the image help you see that? So the image shows me what it looks like. Okay, I can see what the inclined plane looks like. It helps me to see that smooth climb from the lower place to the higher place, doesn't it? All right, let's go back and let's read to see if there's something else that the text tells us about the inclined plane. Inclined planes let people move heavy objects more easily. They can push the objects instead of lifting them. All right, let's keep going. Today we use inclined planes all the time. Wheelchair ramps are one example. Loading ramps for moving trucks are another. Boat ramps are another. Okay? Now, that information came from the text that an inclined plane is a flat surface that creates a ramp. It's a smooth climb from a lower place to a higher place. Now, we're just focusing in on what the inclined plane is and not really what it does. What it is helps us know what it does, right? But in our diagram, it gives us an example of what the inclined plane is used for, doesn't it? We see that the inclined plane, what it looks like, moving from that lower place to that higher place. But this diagram is showing me an example of the inclined plane in use. This illustration is showing me how the mover can push a heavy object into the truck. The text told me that they could do that, but the diagram is showing me what that looks like. So the diagram shows a mover pushing a heavy object into a truck. Okay? So I am able to see that in the diagram. I can see that heavy object being pushed onto the truck. Now, the text, like I said, told me in paragraph number 3, loading ramps for moving trucks are another example of an inclined plane. But the diagram actually shows me how the mover is using that, okay? So the diagram and in the article helped me to understand what an inclined plane is and how it works. It is a flat surface that creates a ramp that has a smooth climb from a lower place to a higher place. I know what it looks like, and I can see someone actually putting it into use. Okay? Now I want you to do the talk question. What are inclined planes used for? What are other reasons you can think of for using an inclined plane? So I want you to give me examples of what inclined planes are used for, and tell me something else that you might know about inclined planes. So go ahead and pause the video and talk about that question. All right, so inclined planes are used to lift heavy objects or to have an easier way to get heavy objects places rather than having to lift down and pick them up, right? They let us kind of slide them where they need to go. What do you think inclined planes can also be used for? We know they're used for wheelchair ramps, right? We know that moving trucks use them. We know that boat ramps are another way. What's something else that these inclined planes could be used for? I'm kind of thinking about when you see big transfer trucks, they're 18-wheelers, they have those cars on the back of them, right? You see the cars, they're kind of at a slant, right? That's because they have gone up that inclined plane and then they're leveled out. So those are another use that I thought of that the inclined plane was used for, getting a car up on a truck so that they could transfer it different places, okay? All right, now what we're going to do is our short response. This is where we take what we learned and we put it into writing so that others know about our learning, okay? The short response says, look again at the diagram. How does it help you understand how an inclined plane works? How does the diagram show what you read about in paragraph 2? So we're taking what we read about in paragraph number 2 and we're talking about how the diagram can help us, okay? Here's the short response question here on this page, but then you can also flip over a couple of pages and you'll actually have a spot to write on page 302. So what we're going to do is we're going to be flipping back and forth from page 302 back to our text on page 298. Let's reread paragraph number 2. An inclined plane is a flat surface that creates a ramp. This ramp makes a smooth climb from a lower place to a higher place. Inclined planes let people move heavy objects more easily. They can push the objects instead of lifting them. So I'm looking at the diagram now, and I'm seeing that use of that inclined plane, the mover pushing that heavy object, that dresser, up into the truck. And she's not having to lift it. She's just pushing. So we need to first answer the question, how? We want to know in the way that it happened. How does it help you understand how an inclined plane works? So in what ways does the diagram help us understand how the inclined plane works? So we need to answer that question. So the diagram shows how the inclined plane works by, we see that example, don't we? So it shows us how the inclined plane works by showing an example of it in use. Okay, so now we need to show some evidence, some details that explain how this diagram gives an example. So the diagram shows, what does the diagram show? Shows a mover pushing the heavy object onto the truck with ease, right? It doesn't look like she's struggling. It looks like she's doing it with ease. So the diagram shows the mover pushing a heavy object into the truck with ease. Okay? All right, so let's go back and make sure that we have answered the question. How does it help you understand? How does the diagram help you understand how an inclined plane works? The diagram shows how the inclined plane works by showing an example of the inclined plane in use. The diagram shows the mover pushing a heavy object into the truck with ease. We can see how that ramp is going from that lower place to that higher place. The ramp shows a smooth surface from a lower place to a higher place. Okay. All right, guys, so now we understand how the diagram helped us to understand more about the inclined plane being that ramp, because we can see that example, can't we? All right, now let's reflect back on our learning target to help us with our thinking today. I can explain how images support the words in a text to show and describe information. So think about what we just talked about with how that diagram supported the words in a text. Remember, the diagram showed us the way that that inclined plane worked. The text told us that the inclined plane was a ramp that moved from a higher place to a lower place, but that diagram supported those words in giving us an example and being able to see it happen. All right, guys, we are going to continue practicing with this learning target. I hope that you feel that you are getting a good idea of this learning target, and we are improving throughout the week.